That's it. We are live. Today is Wednesday, 26th of September, 2018. On the panel with us is Astral, Patricia, Flat Earth Dude, Mr. Thrive and Survive, and Des Walsh. And Des Walsh is going somewhere tomorrow. Where are you off to, Des?
We're heading off on our Flat Earth expedition to find the edge of Flat Earth. That's where we're going, and we're pretty excited about it. And I have to say, we're receiving great support from everyone, and yeah, it's great. So, and it's good to be on here talking to you guys.
Very nice having you here.
Yeah, same here.
Very sorry about your Facebook being blocked the other day, though.
Yes, we expected that, to be honest. In fact, we were going to take it down probably tomorrow anyways and put it back up. But that's just the way it happens. Yeah.
Do you know why you were blocked?
I don't know. I'd imagine, as you know yourself, guys, there's a lot of negativity towards flat earthers, but I guess we're kind of used to that. But listen, that's the way it goes. Social media can be great, and it can have drawbacks too. But sure, listen, without it, we'd be, I suppose, we'd be in trouble too. But we're going to go ahead anyways, and onwards and flatwards, I suppose.
What have flat earthers been like towards you then, Des?
In general, pretty positive. I have to say there have been some who haven't been so supportive. Pretty, I don't know, just maybe a little negative towards our expedition. But they seem to be coming on board now, so I think that's great, So in general, I have to say people have been very positive. Yeah. In general.
I suppose it's because you've come out of the middle of, you've come like suddenly, ding, there you are. You were there, and then you're going. But I do appreciate that you haven't, we're not waiting 6 months.
Yeah, well, we always kind of planned it like this, that we didn't want to have too much of a circus around it, and pretty short time between announcing we were going and actually leaving. So that was the plan. But yeah, I think it's worked out okay. But sure, listen, we've only started yet, so we haven't gone anywhere yet.
No, but for the panel and for the chat room, you are actually a scientist, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I'm a professor. Hello.
Cool. And just so that if people weren't in the chat room the other day, you have been planning this for 3 years.
Close on 3 years, we've been planning this expedition, obviously quietly in our own way. A team of us, and it's coming to fruition now. Yes, I'd say close. Well, it's about 2. Yeah, it's actually about 2 years and 10 months, but not quite 3 years, but pretty close to it, yeah. To be exact.
Rich, do you want to ask a question because you're unmuted?
Yeah, I've got about 1 million questions. How many people are you taking with you?
Quite a lot. Up to 50 people. Quite a lot, yeah. It's a pretty major trek. It's not just a team of us, a small team. There's a lot more to this expedition than people realize, and we're doing a lot more. We're doing a lot more than people expect. It's not necessarily going to the ice wall and taking foot. There's going to be a few surprises in it, and that's taken quite a lot of our resources and money, to be honest. But I think people are going to be surprised.
Yeah, I wish I would have known earlier. I would have tried to be one of your volunteers. I would love to do that. So you're going on this journey starting tomorrow, and how long do you expect the journey to last?
Not long. A lot of people are surprised by this, but we, in fact, hope to have it wrapped up within 3, 4, maximum 5 days, which is surprising a lot of people, but
Yeah, I remember from what I heard before, you expect to actually get to the edge pretty quickly, within 2 days.
Yeah, pretty quickly, yeah. We do,
that's fantastic. And I guess you're going to have all kind of different ways of documenting what you observe.
Yes, we do, yeah. I actually, the guys here are working on that at the minute. I'm certainly no IT specialist, I can assure you that. But yeah, I mean, I think they have everything tied down at the minute. Yeah. So yeah, we're doing it pretty quickly because we didn't want it to drag out. Because sometimes with expeditions like this, if they drag out too long, you know, people they lose interest, and you know, so that's what we've decided. So I think we're happy enough with that.
Is there?
I mean, at the moment, you have to be in and out, because that's just in and out, basically. That's what you want right now.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, short and sweet, as they say. So yeah, that's the plan. I think we can achieve it.
Is there any particular reason why you chose this time of year to go?
No, in fact, we planned this about a year ago.
But
Not necessarily any reason. It's just, I suppose,
Timing.
Timing. Well, you know, about 2 years ago, we decided on a date, and we decided to stick to it. There was no exact reason for it. We said we're going to go with this, and that's it. So some people think there's drawbacks to this time of year, obviously, as we know, but you know, we're going to go ahead now.
Now, from the last hangout, it seemed to me like you were saying that there's a possibility you might even have some live updates going on. If that's the case, where can we maybe see that?
Yes, absolutely. But I can assure you, people will be given plenty of notice on social media and various platforms of when this is going to happen. I can't give you exact details yet. Obviously, the Facebook issue has to be sorted, but I believe that's sorted at the minute. But I can assure you, the public will be given plenty of notice when we're going to go live.
Okay, so how can we find you on Facebook?
Talking to the guys, apparently there's a page going to be put up tomorrow.
Okay.
The Flat Earth Expedition.
All separate words?
Yes, separate words.
Awesome.
Just to explain as well, there are some flat Earth scientists going, but you've got a mixture of people going, and I don't know what to call them, globehead scientists. You've got a mixture of people going with you. Yes,
absolutely. We have 4, as I suppose we refer to them as round Earth scientists, but we'll just call them scientists for pure objectivity on this trip. A lot of people had suggested before that if it was all flat earthers, then how could you be objective? So I don't think there's going to be any doubt that we will be objective. So that's the reason why those guys are going. So I think it should add credibility, not that it needs it, but yeah.
Can I just say, in the chat room, someone asked, are you worried about, well, it's super leads, are you worried about getting arrested, or he's put shot?
Well, you're not. You can never be absolutely sure things won't go wrong, but no, absolutely not. No, not worried at all. In fact, we're more worried about getting the footage out to the world that the Earth is flat. That's really our main priority.
I suddenly thought of something as well, Des. Are you taking your passport with you?
Absolutely.
I suppose you have to, yeah. I mean, anyway, I just thought of it. Like, would you be taking that or taking no identification with you? Yeah. So
no, always carry it. No, always carry it. Yeah, and the entire team will.
I realize you need to have secrecy with a lot of stuff, and just trying to piece things together from last time. Would it be safe to assume that you have more than one mode of transportation you're going to be using on this venture?
Yes, absolutely. More than one. There is, yeah, definitely more than one. I can assure you. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One thing,
you guys,
oh, sorry. Oh, dude.
You guys have some drones? Taking some drones?
Yes, we are. We have 2 guys who specialize in that. Yes, absolutely. We're taking drones. Yeah. Yes.
You said when you came on last time, because we know that you're not going to say that much, but you did say that you would be wearing different clothes.
Sorry, Karen?
Sorry, I know you're not going to say that much, but when you came on last time, you said that at some point you're going to be you're wearing different clothes.
Yes, we will. We chatted about that the last time.
Yeah.
What's the significance of different clothes? What's significant about that?
I suppose if I can put it diplomatically, the environment will be slightly different once we reach certain points. If you get
Okay.
yeah, if you get my
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Can I
I think I do.
just say something? I know it's a lot of people trust you. A lot of people might scoff at this, but we
Yes,
have to be very discreet in how we, quite speak about what we're talking about right now. Because Des, I have 100% faith in you, brother. Seriously, I have.
Okay, thank you.
This is a big thing. It's a big thing, and that people can scoff at something like this is like ridiculous.
Yeah, but I guess we're used to that. We're almost immune to that at this stage. To be honest.
True. That is so true. But I think people ought to have an open mind about everything.
Well,
Absolutely.
We've been talking about doing an expedition, in the flat Earth community for several years, and you're the first one that's come along that's actually going to go do it. That is putting it out there, and you've been planning it, and you're going to actually do it. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Yeah, I actually can't believe tomorrow is here already. And I guess why there's such a short time period between announcing it and leaving is because, as I said earlier, we didn't want a circus to surround this expedition, and by having a very short time period from announcing to actually producing footage, I think is beneficial to the flat Earth community, and that's why we've done it, or why we're doing it.
Well, good scientists, you got to get as much of the information out, and you only put it out once you really got it,
Really, we can talk. Yeah, we can talk all we want about planning and research and departure and how we're going to approach it, but it's all about the footage. It's all about proof. Really and truly, until we make that available, we can talk really until, I guess, the cows come home. But until we do that, then, I suppose we can't.
Once you got the footage, man, I'm throwing a party, okay?
Okay, absolutely. I think everyone is going to throw a party. Yeah,
we're gonna throw a big old party, and
maybe not the round Earth community, but certainly the
flat Earth party, man.
Yeah.
We're gonna throw a flat Earth party, and
definitely, yeah,
it'll be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Hey, Des, while you're here, and the people in the chat and people that'll see this later, for those inclined, I think we need to not only pray for the success of your mission, but for your safety, and that you don't get arrested, and that you don't have any of these obstacles that the world could throw up at you. And also pray that the truth that you unveil, whatever it is, gets disseminated, and that the real cosmology that our Creator gave us is revealed to the world through your efforts. And I applaud you for what you're doing, but I would implore everybody who is so into praying to pray for this group, this expedition, that it's successful, and that most of all, it's safe for all those concerned. And then secondarily, that the truth, with the cosmology of the world, the way the Creator made it, gets put out there. So I'd like to encourage everybody that prays to do that. I'm a firm believer in group prayer and what that can bring. So I like to encourage people to do that.
Okay, thank you very much for those kind words.
Very nicely put.
Very nicely put. Thank you. Very apt words. Thank you.
Very nice. Very nice, Rich.
Now, are you going to be okay with people once your video or whatever your data that you come up with? Are you going to be okay for everybody to sort of mirror that, put their own videos together, post on Facebook and other social media to help get this out as fast as humanly possible?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, the quicker it gets out there, the better. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
So we would encourage that. Yeah, we'd encourage that. Yeah. Yes.
Now, Des, you said you're a professor, which means you've come from mainstream science. How did you come to flat Earth yourself?
I guess I was always interested in the flat Earth, really from a very young age. I mean, I think I was telling Karen the last night. It could have been 4 or 5, but I suppose by the time I was 9 or 10, I mean, I was asking serious questions. So really, that's where it came from, and it really kicked off from there. If I'm to go back, obviously through time, yeah. So it really started, I suppose, when I was 9 or 10, asking serious questions.
That's unusual. Did you have parents who believed in the flat Earth or anything like that?
Not necessarily, but they were always very inquisitive, you know.
Okay. No, that's good to be brought up in an
curious,
environment. Yeah.
Curious minds.
Yeah, I think today most people are brought up to, you know, the authority is your teacher and whatever they say is gospel. That's the problem today. So nobody is a free thinker today, or very few people are, I should say.
Yeah, sorry, Karen?
I was going to say, it's quite encouraging that we've got a flat Earth scientist, a real one.
Yeah, I mean, you know, people kind of scoffed at that, but people are accepting it now. I mean, we always refer to ourselves as flat Earth scientists. I mean, it's what we do. Yeah, it's our job. So yeah, we are.
How many are in your group? I mean, not the volunteers, whatever. How many of core people put this together and planned it and whatever?
Core, yeah, sorry, core people. I would say 15 core people.
Okay.
From the very start, yeah, 15. I suppose at the start is about maybe 4 or 5 of us, but the last year and a half, really, it's gone to about 15 core people. Yeah.
Okay. And you put, I guess most of the resources are personal resources then.
Personal resources, it would be a major part of it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's quite a lot going into it. There's quite a lot of time, obviously, and obviously quite a lot of financial resources too. So it's that's why it's been 3 years, I suppose, going on. But find this coming to fruition. Not tomorrow, but in a few days. So
there's a question I keep wanting to ask you, and I know you can't answer it directly, but to me, there's certain direction. I mean, obviously, you have to head south. I'm hoping you pick a direction that's not, let's say, right off the coast of South America or Africa or Australia, whatever, you know, the typical, if you head south from there, that you're going to hit the ice wall or you're going to hit Antarctica. Yeah. So is it safe to say you picked a direction that would be a little non-expected, maybe?
You can say that again and multiply by 10.
Awesome. Okay.
You certainly can, yeah. It's certainly not going to be there'll be lots of aspects of this expedition which people will be surprised by.
Okay.
Like that, yeah. So
you seem very confident as to what you're going to find.
Yeah, you have to be confident. You know, you really do. We are very confident. Yeah, very confident.
Is that
Oh, sorry. Carry on, Rich.
No, I was just going to say, is that confidence based on any previous expeditions?
Previous research. I'll put it like that. Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Previous research. Previous reconnaissance, if I can put it like that.
Well, I got to tell you, this is one of the most exciting things I've heard about in Flat Earth for the 3 years I've been into it. I mean, this is like a refreshing gust of air that's possibly getting ready to blow across all our sails, if I could put it that way.
Good.
It's nice you said that, but we've only got 90 people in the chat.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, not to worry. Yeah.
Yeah, we can spread the word.
Spread the word, yeah. It's all about producing
hangout, aren't they? Everybody can post this hangout.
Absolutely.
And, but you don't want it too big, do you?
No, Karen. From the start, we didn't. No.
In 5 or 6 days, big.
Yes, big. We're not worried at all about coverage at the minute. Really, the litmus test is in a few days. That is the litmus test. Really, prior to going is, I won't say irrelevant, but the litmus test is in 3 days after departure. 3 to 4. I won't say 3. 3 to 4. That's our plan. So we're pretty excited, and thanks, guys, for having me on. I may have to cut it slightly short tonight, unfortunately. I mentioned that earlier, Karen, but does that suit? Or?
Well, it's been really great that you've joined us anyway, and because people, if you hadn't turned up, people would have said, "Oh, he's lying," but you did turn up, and we did know that you're very busy.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Karen. Yeah.
Can I just ask you one more time to just explain
Yeah.
what you can about what you're doing, what's happening, so that the chat room hear it one more time?
Just a summation.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Tomorrow, myself and a team of scientists will travel to the edge of flat Earth and finally prove to the world that the edge is flat. And that's as well as I can put it.
Great.
How's that, guys?
Beautiful.
So you're going to
brilliant.
it's obvious you have to be doing something different than everybody else has done, going and just taking pictures or movies of the, the ice wall. There's something I think that is going to be a surprise, or some things are going to be a surprise.
Yes,
coming our way.
there'll be several surprises. It's certainly not a mainstream approach.
Now, would it be safe to say you're also going to take like astronomical observations and other scientific observations?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes, we are.
Okay, so you've got a bunch of scientists, you've got volunteers, you got people on both sides, and it's all going to be documented. I don't know what else anyone could ask more, and you paid for a lot of it yourself. That's just awesome.
Yes, pretty significant resources and time gone into it. Yeah, so we have to be confident. We are very confident. So, and listen, guys, thank you very much for having me on.
Can I just say one more thing, Des? Des, when you're at the edge and you think, "Oh, I've got to tell someone about this," let me know if you haven't managed to get it on Facebook, because obviously we'll look on Facebook, and that's where you're going to post it tomorrow. Yes.
Well, Karen, absolutely, because you were kind enough to have me on. So you certainly will be one of the first people we will contact.
Awesome.
Des, can I just say, I wish you all the best, brother. All of you and your crew, and the very, very best of success. Please, I wish you the best.
Much appreciated. Much appreciated.
All of us do.
What do you say? Bon voyage?
Go flat Earth.
Go flat Earth.
Yeah, all the best, Des. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for the work you're doing.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you very much,
talk
Des.
soon. We'll talk soon, guys. Thank you.
Hugs, Des. Do it, Des.
Flat Earth. Flat Earth. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Des.
Thank you.
Well, that's the shortest hangout you've ever had, Karen.
Yeah, but I didn't think.
But it might be one of the most significant ones. So there you go.
I didn't think that he would be here for very long, but much appreciated that he is. He's got a big task tomorrow, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got to rest up.
Yeah, and obviously it has to be very clandestine, and you obviously can't give too much away. So there's a few people speculating and asking questions and what have you, and obviously he's not able to answer them because of the what he's doing. So yeah, just that.
It's really annoying. On the hangout, you can hear he can only say a little bit, and you know there's a wall. He's got an ice wall.
Yeah, that even adds to the credibility. He's got to be so secretive about everything. If it was just BS, he wouldn't, you could just spill your guts out about whatever. It wouldn't matter. So it sounds to me like he's really going.
Yeah, and it's so nice that you said those things to him, Rich and Astral, because, a lot of people can be a bit like, oh, it's all rubbish. And I think it's one of the nicest things that's happened to us lately, isn't it?
Absolutely. It gives you a fresh injection of hope in your system.
What, that we might see something really happening in our lifetime.
Yeah, because we're certainly not going to get it from mainstream, are we?
But that's why we're here. We're a flat Earth research group, and we're all of us, even everyone in the chat, are all flat Earth researchers. Whether you're a globist or not, it's a true statement. We're all flat Earth researchers. And we're looking for the answers.
It's good that we're all excited. Well, on the panel we are. All of us here wish Des really well and just really hopes that something happens. Yay! Party on sun and moon.
He seems, really confident that he's going to come up with something that's going to be irrefutable. Of course, nothing's irrefutable, because never underestimate the power of cognitive dissonance. Never.
He did say the other day, though, it's not going to be what you think it is. And I'm thinking, yeah, and maybe when he gets there, it might not be what he thinks it's going to be.
Heck, for all we know, he's heading north. I mean, from his description, I mean, you know, it sounds like everybody's going to be shocked what direction he went.
I don't know if he's still there. I don't think he's going south.
I think he should stop.
Sorry, Astral, you're breaking up.
Right.
You're breaking up, Astral. Anyway, Rich, did you? Yeah, I think he's really going, and all credit to them, and that they raised all this money themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, you'll have people say, "Well, it's all their money. It's gonna be a self-fulfilling prophecy because they don't want to waste their money." I mean, you can't win with people, but it's definitely better than the other way, because if you raise money for anything, God knows all that happens after that is you get accused of everything, including stealing the money and whatever, gypping the people. So it's like you know, when I announced I wanted to go to Alaska and I also wanted to go to Antarctica, the two places I haven't been to on the earth. I've been to all the different seas except for the Antarctic, and I haven't been to Antarctica, obviously. And someone immediately said you should do because Antarctica is so freaking expensive. Somebody said that you should do a GoFundMe, but that's the last thing I'll do, because all you do is get accused of whatever. Now, if somebody else wants to do a GoFundMe and then give me the money when it's time to go buy the tickets and everything, where I don't have to handle the money, yeah, that's something different. But even from the balloons, I mean, it's incredible the people that claimed that I faked the balloon launches, both here and in the UK. And we had witnesses. I had somebody at my balloon launch here in the US, somebody that was that I met on my channel, never met him in person. He actually came, and if it wasn't for him, we might not have even got the balloons off. He was sort of a savior with the helium and getting that in and different things like that. But the things that you get accused of if you raise money just isn't worth doing.
No. Well, yeah, I think you always get people like that, though, don't you, Rich?
Yeah. Well, all you have to do is ever look at the comments. You'll see what you get.
We're born because we're told all about the globe and the globe life, so we're pretty negative to start with. We've got to learn to have a bit of faith and a bit of hope, which we do, because we need something in flat Earth right now, don't we? Something different. And you know, Des isn't making us wait 6 months, is he? He's going tomorrow.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You know, that you know, and infrared, that was a nice breath of fresh air too, seeing infrared photography and how much that expanded what, you know, the distance we can see. And you just never know when something new is going to pop out. You know, think about it. It's only been 3 years, really, since I've been in it. And I think most people have been in it 3 years or less. That's when Eric DeBay really started, you know, getting some traction on YouTube. And that's when people started to really focus in a little bit. But in 3 years, think about it. We've already gotten stale with what we've looked at a little bit. And to have infrared come in only 3 years, and now this, these are fantastic things. And that video that you sent me the link to, Karen, where it showed the sprites up in the air and the reflections they created. You never know when something brand new is going to happen. And that didn't get the traction it needed. I'm going to do a video on that as well. Because that was definitely, we were definitely seeing a reflection in those sprites. And if people don't know what I'm talking about, just hang in there. I'll do a video on it.
Maybe a lot's happening anyway that we don't know about. Like, we've only just learned about Des. Do you know what I mean? He's just there suddenly. And we don't know that a lot of things aren't happening, and then they're not getting any coverage.
Well, I think in his case, it sounds like he purposely didn't want people to know. But to your point, yeah, we could have a lot of people planning a lot of things that we just don't know about yet.
I think Astral told me that he was in the paper. He's been in the paper about the expedition.
Well, I'm sure that was a positive. Probably he was probably portrayed as a nut. Can you believe someone's going to try to go look for an edge?
I think it's probably best that maybe he didn't get too involved in, say, YouTube and Facebook, if you understand what I mean. Because once he listened to them, he wouldn't want to go. So it's better that he bit shielded, if you know what I mean, and he's just got on with what they wanted to do, I think.
You know, how come nobody ever asked the question, where's the edge on the globe? And I know that's going to sound funny at first, but think about it. In the middle of the Pacific or the middle of the Atlantic, the water would have to be miles high compared to the shorelines. And there's, you know, the water comes up to the shoreline of the East Coast of the U.S., West Coast of the U.K., West Coast of Africa, and yet you supposedly have all these miles and miles of accumulated heaps of water in the middle because it has to be a globe. So where's the edge? Well, how come it doesn't just rush up on the land? It just gently comes up, little teeny waves on the shore, relatively speaking, to these miles high. So there also should be an edge on the globe, which we don't see. You know, if you know what I mean, there should be an edge to capture all this water that's heaped up for miles in the center, has to be, compared to where the shorelines are. And you have to think about it this way too. Gravity wouldn't work in the middle because there's miles and miles of deep water there compared to the shorelines. So I don't know. When you really think it out, the globe makes absolutely no sense.
About sea levels, and I suppose I'd never even thought about that. Like, they're sort of showing different sea levels or whatever, but they're not, because the plane just flies straight across.
Oh,
it's not,
yeah.
Hey, I've just got to go up a few thousand feet now because I've got to get to that beach over there.
Yeah, sea level has to be sea level. It has to be the same. Like if you had, let's say, a star that was 30 miles above the Earth, and you hung a string down from the star to the sea level in the Atlantic, it would have to be the same sea level in the Atlantic as in the Pacific, as in the South Pacific, as in the Arctic. The sea level is sea level. It's just, there's no difference. And I got the concept from weather that I have to put down. I have it in my head, but I can't graphically explain it yet. And once I can get that in my brain how to do that, I'll explain that there's no way it could be a globe with high and low pressure systems on the Earth. They simply would not work, because you would have different if you have different sea levels all over the Earth, high and low pressure systems, it would be impossible for them to form. It just would be. And it would be nonsense. People that do these barometric pressure readings, like we did out at sea when we were on the ship, we still had to reduce sea level by 108 feet, I think it was, where we were on the carrier. We were 108 feet above sea level, so we had to reduce to sea level. But by the time the aircraft were coming, we could be 150, 200 miles away or even further from where they took off. So our sea level, quote unquote, would be different. But it's not. There's no adjustment for where we moved on the Earth. Now, magnify that out with aircraft flying from one end of the Earth to the other. Their altimeter doesn't adjust for sea level. That's their local sea level. That makes absolutely no sense. Sea level is sea level. It's like the Suez Canal and even the Panama Canal, where they have locks. The only reason why they have locks is to compensate for the land, where the land goes up and down. But you have the same Atlantic Pacific sea level on each side. Otherwise, even that wouldn't work, even with the series of locks. The locks compensated for land elevation. It did not compensate for the sea level in the Pacific and the sea level in the Atlantic. And these are just things that are right in front of our face that we never even think about. Suez Canal, that's a long canal. And it shows that the same sea level in the Mediterranean is the same sea level in the Indian Ocean. So we have examples all over the world that tell us all day that sea level is the same.
No sea wall out there.
Yeah, and there's a reason why they use the word sea level. I don't know. It's just the cognitive dissonance, even with that, to think that you would leave the Mediterranean, go through the Suez Canal, and somehow be at a different sea level when you got to the Indian Ocean is crazy. And it's just as crazy as there's a 7-mile bulge at the equator or south of the equator of water. No ship reports listing up as they head towards that level off and then list down on the other side. It's just crazy nonsense.
It always makes me laugh, that.
Yeah, it's just. And then you get.
You're a person that's been on a ship and been on the sea.
Yeah, there's no, again, it's being brain dead, just absorbing what you're told. That's what's so impressive about Des being 10 years old and questioning, the shape of the Earth. Here I was in the Navy. I consider myself a scientist since I was 5 years old, you know, asking questions, reading science books, and seeing things right in front of my eyes that I did not even compute, didn't even let myself compute, like seeing ships past the 60-mile ring on the radar. How could I see ships 60 miles away if it's a globe? I couldn't. And how could all kind of things? How could we race from Gibraltar to Norfolk, Virginia, and go in a dead straight line on a Mercator, a modified Mercator map? That would not hold water, so to speak, on a globe. It just wouldn't make, so many things just don't make sense. None of the not just the Navy, but none of the military's weapon systems take into account any curvature of the Earth, and they don't even take into account. I can't believe people are still talking about Coriolis, and I just can't believe people are still believe that. But if you think a Sidewinder missile launched off the side of an aircraft carrier going towards Iran, let's say, or Syria or whatever from the Mediterranean is taking into account its latitude, longitude, its direction of fire as far as applying Coriolis to it, the person who designed the weapon would think you're a mental case. They really would.
Not just that, Rich. If they're firing one way, they're going to be going with the rotation of the Earth. And if they fire the other way, they're going to be going against it.
Yes, and you'd have to have a massive brain computer on board each missile that would calculate for all that. And there isn't, of course. So it's just, there's so many things that just, now, you know, I look back and I'm like, why didn't I pick this up? Why didn't I get this? Charting. We charted our past, present, and future positions where we thought we were going to be in the future on our weather maps. And it was always dead reckoning, straight line. It was never a great circle route. Stuff that just should have made sense back then, but then, and there's so many more things I could talk about. It just, you know, I've done a video on the submarine. You know, one of the things we do in the weather office also is we would drop something called a bathythermograph, which would look for different thermal layers in the water as you went down. Well, there's no accounting for, oh, where we are, we're at the top of the ball. So the 100 feet down where all of a sudden there's a warm layer, a duct, so to speak. 10 miles out, actually, that would be 60 feet lower because we're on a ball. No, it's totally, you would assume, and the military does assume that if it's 5,200 feet down from where you are, well, that's way too far. Let's say 520 feet down from where you are, 10 miles out, unless conditions change, it's still 520 feet down. There's no adjustment for the curvature of the Earth. And submarines don't, you know, this is beautiful. When I did that video about the submarines, they don't constantly correct for curvature of the Earth so that they would, you know, they would constantly be, if they were going level, they would constantly be heading towards the surface. It's just the way it would be. And
yeah, if you put it that way, Rich, then if a submarine doesn't, imagine what the fish and the whales would have to go through if they had to sort of do all this.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, with the submarine, the argument on the other side is I don't understand how ballast works, how the submarine goes up and down and how it maintains level. Well, none of that matters. I don't care how it maintains level. I just know it does. And if it maintains level and it doesn't correct for curvature, and they don't, that's the main point. You know, all these World War II movies you'd see where you have these U-2 submarines, and they're going for hundreds of miles behind a carrier task force or something like that until they got just the right opportunity to fire on them. They constantly have to be diving. You know, they're at periscope range the whole time, so they can keep these ships and everything in their view. But anyway, they constantly have to be adjusting for the Earth's curve, and it's never done. It never has been done. From Gatling guns to these, like I said, to Sidewinder missiles, even to these missiles that intercontinental ballistic missiles. There's no account for what direction they're going in as far as curvature of the Earth, having to correct for Coriolis. It's all total bunk, but people want to hold on to it with zero evidence. The only thing they grab onto is the bullet. See, a bullet moves so fast you can never really analyze it, can you? And if you go and look at that video, if I'm not mistaken, that one where the guy was brilliant with his marketing, where he shows I'm sure we've all seen it. He shows the gun that he's trying to sell, and he shoots and he misses the target by 3 or 4 inches one way, and he goes the other way and says, all right, now I'm going to adjust for Coriolis. Well, if you notice, if I'm not mistaken, when he adjusts for Coriolis, he misses by an additional inch or 2. He's actually worse off than before he adjusted for Coriolis. But it worked well for, I'm sure, selling his gun, and he got well over 1 million views, mostly from flat earthers. But it's always the bullet. You know, forget about the evidence that you can see, like cannons being shot straight up in the air and sometimes even landing in the very cannon they were fired from. No Coriolis effect. Or a little video I did where baseball games. Can you imagine someone, you know, a projectile is a projectile. Can you imagine a baseball batter facing north and having his home run go way foul because of the rotation of the earth? But if he's in another stadium facing the other way, facing east, there's no change in his trajectory at all. It's all ridiculous when you think about it.
Not just that. Well, you can imagine it. They don't suddenly say, hey, we've got a bit of an extra wind today, so we have to adjust this and do this. And, you know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? They must know it. The things, they know it's flat. To be able to use the things on it.
Yeah, well, there's people that have actually done the research and shown that when you really dig deep into what they call them, white papers, not only of NASA, but all these different weapon systems, you'll see stuff like this assumes a flat, non-rotating Earth. Always. So if it assumes it from the very start, then it's built all the way in.
You know this bit when you said that you didn't see it? The thing is, though, that if you're going to take what indoctrination is, the army is one of the worst places that they've done it. And so that, because armies are not about you being an individual, it's about you being part of a group. So they've already taken away your individuality, really, and you're not thinking for yourself, you're thinking for them.
Absolutely. That's the backbone of the military. You become a unit, not an individual. And that's instilled in you in day one. From the first day you get to boot camp, that's instilled in you. It's not about you, it's about the group.
They've got to do that, though, haven't they? Because otherwise people are going to say, hey, we're flat, aren't we?
Well, you would certainly come to that conclusion if you were thinking, like I said, when I was in the Navy, I didn't think about these things. I didn't think about, the curvature of the Earth.
Can I say something, Rich?
Absolutely.
Back to the Navy. It's in Hunter's book. I've got this PDF, of course, 100 proofs, Earth not a globe. And on that, it's saying that, and this is from 1885, and in the book or booklet that I have, it says 45 degrees south latitude, right? The distances that they experienced whilst they were sailing there were greater than the northern hemisphere. Therefore, it proves Earth is not a globe.
Well, that was the other thing too. I've mentioned it, but unfortunately, I can't go by anything than my perceptions. When we were particularly in the Indian Ocean south of the equator, it seemed like it took forever to get from one place to the next, and it took 60 days. Granted, now we weren't trying to steam from one location to the other in a record time, but it took us 60 days just to get most of the way, or I'd say 3/4 of the way across from Africa to Australia. And they gave us a beer day. This is why I remember, because you were allowed 2 beers each person on the ship. And interesting negotiations there where the alcoholics would almost give you anything for your 2 tickets for beer. But anyway, going even from Diego Garcia to Australia or back, and less so, but I even remember thinking when we were off the coast of South America after we crossed the equator, that it took forever to get from, South America sort of juts out, and then you have to cut back in if you're going to Brazil. I just remember that it just seemed like it took forever for the distance we were covering. Now, again, that was just perception. Now, if I had my mindset today, I'd be measuring all kind of things and seeing how many miles per hour we went and how much ground we were covering. But I do remember one thing that still sticks with me to this day. And I get this a lot whenever you're talking about the subject, you get people that say, well, you used GPS, didn't you? You know how that's how you got around on the seas and everything. Well, one thing that did wake me up as far as something was wrong with this picture, so to speak, was how GPS was used. Now, GPS was used back in the early 80s, whatever that is. I think it's just simple triangulation from nearby 3 different locations. But in any case, to cut to the chase, I was shocked that we weren't receiving a signal, let's say from space satellites that we triangulated in that gave us our location. Like if you got, if you remember anybody that had the early cell phones or satellite phones in your car, and even our early GPSs, you turn them on and it would show a picture of a satellite in the sky. And then another one would pop up. And once you got to the third one, that's when it would give you your location. You needed 3 to triangulate. The thing that shocked me was that we weren't receiving anything. We transmitted out our ship information, and then it came back and told us where we were. And that can still be proven today. When you go on any of the ship location, what are they? Websites that show you, like the Johnny Bow is leaving. He left Australia, Perth, Australia, and he's heading for Guam. And it'll give you the direction and speed of the ship is going. Well, how does this software that you can see online know the name of every single ship that's on there and where it is and where it's heading? Well, it's because the ship is sending out the information to this, whatever it is, this triangulation service that will tell you where it is. It's not you grabbing the information like is what's been presented to us over the years. When you turn your GPS on in the car, it's not waiting for 3 satellites to come and tell you, okay, it sees that satellite, it's a certain angle, it sees that satellite, certain angle, and here's the third one. All right, from that, we know where you are. No. That little device is sending information out, and then you're getting a return off of that, which gives you the triangulation. It's exactly opposite of the way people believe. And like I said, the proof of that is go to any of these ship locating services, and you will see that it'll always give you the name of the ship, unless it's a military ship. It'll just say ship or something like that. But any commercial, there's hundreds of thousands of ships at any one time out on the seas. But this thing knows the names of all of them and what direction they're heading and everything. But it's not, it's the exact opposite of what you think. It's because the ship itself is transmitting out where they are. And then these receiving stations triangulate on it and then report where it is. And that's something that anybody can go and look for themselves and see, that it's not satellites in space giving us the information. It's the ship itself telling us where it is.
Rich?
Yeah.
They also have weather buoys all over the seas, don't they, that are giving us weather patterns and stuff, telling us precipitation and what have you. There.
Well, the buoys...
Those are tracking ships and things, I've heard.
Well, the weather buoys themselves, they're pretty archaic as far as they'll give you sea height and swell information mostly, sea water temperature. Some of the more advanced ones will give you air temperature too, and dew point temperature and barometric pressure. But they don't report precipitation or anything like that. The buoys don't. But each ship does. Each ship that has a weather office will report what the weather is. Like we were an aircraft carrier. We reported what the weather was, and it came back. We sent our stuff went live, and it would come back. My own observation would come out on a radio, which we would gather all the information from surrounding ships and from the land. There's certain frequencies around the world where the weather information is transmitted, and my own observation that I would type into the system and transmit out would come back in 30 minutes or whatever over this radar. And sometimes it'd be funny because you weren't even expecting it. You're sitting there plotting and you get the latitude, longitude, and like, oh, that's real close to where we are. And then you figure out, oh, that's my observation. So that's how the worldwide weather is coordinated. It's all transmitted via radio, and to the nearest station, and it comes back. What did get me, and it still gets me, I don't know how it's done, but we did track quote unquote satellites, and we had a satellite machine. I'm very familiar with that because I was the one person on the ship who could fix it. Even the electronics technician couldn't. When we were out at sea one time, and my division officer wanted that information. That was his number one thing. He did not want to lose satellite. Now, we had two different things we caught. We caught what are called the geostationary satellites, where we just adjusted based on our latitude and longitude where this geostationary satellite supposedly was. And then we had the NOAA. Back then it was NOAA 7 in particular was the one I remember catching a lot. They would supposedly rotate the Earth and be on a little bit of a, like 10, 20 degrees each time. It would, advance with each pass. And we had a computer, an old Hewlett-Packard, that would predict where it was in the sky, and we would turn our antenna directly at it and grab the signal. And I followed that all the way across the sky. Now, I have ideas how they do that now, but back then I didn't even question it. But there is something that sort of gave it away that was wrong, and anybody that's worked in a weather office out at sea that's captured these satellite images will be able to tell you. The images were imperfect as far as see, when you're out at sea, it's difficult to know where you are on the map or the satellite picture because there's no land. So where are you? The satellite doesn't say, "Oh, you're a ship right here. I'm going to put a little dot here so you know where you are." No, what you would do is you would find the nearest land, and we would make templates like from a transparent. What do they call it today? These transparent paper, whatever. You would draw in like magic marker, permanent ink, the outline of land. And I remember specifically off the coast of when we were in the around Bermuda area down to Cuba area, that somewhere, and in between, we would use the East Coast of the United States, and Florida in particular, especially since it had a large lake in the middle, gave us a nice template to use. It was an overlay. That's the word I'm looking for. We would take, the overlay, put it on top of the satellite image that we got, where you could make out some land mass, and you would line it up, and then you're like, okay. And we would even go down to put latitude or longitude on so we know where we were. Well, the problem was the next pass by the satellite would be a little different. As far as the land, it just didn't match right. Florida would be a little bit closer up to Maine than it should be, or whatever, a little bit further away from Cuba. Not much, but after 2 or 3 passes, your overlay was useless, even if you were still in the exact same area, because whatever they were using, I think, was just an approximation. It was a simulation of where the land was, and it was never perfect. And it would be perfect for 1 pass, maybe 2, close to perfect on the second, but it would rapidly deteriorate after that. So that told me it was some sort of simulation. It tells me now that I couldn't understand back then why does the land masses change with time, and different distances to that landmass change. Well, if it's a simulation, that's one reason. Some people might say, well, it's different angles it's getting, so it's messed up. But, it should be pretty much the same, and it wasn't. But anybody that works in the weather office who has done that, they can tell you that's a problem. I'm actually starting to think now that, that we have these satellites that can supposedly look down through the different cloud layers. And with infrared technology, you can even tweak that to where you can totally eliminate the higher levels and just see the middle or lower levels. We did that with hurricanes a lot. Why couldn't that be reversed? Why couldn't you look from the bottom up and put the same images out there? I think that's probably more what they're doing. I think we're probably getting bottom up images, signals going up, and the signal saying, okay, at 5,000 feet, there's a cloud lever. At 10,000, there's a cloud layer, and it draws it out like in a computer map. And then we see it as a satellite image projected down, but I think maybe it could be bottom up. There's also troposcatter. people need to look into that, troposcatter and satellites, and how do they do satellite TV and things like that, where you point a dish at a certain location. And troposcatter is one way to answer that question. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent here, but it's just one of the things that just wouldn't make sense if we were on a ball.
It's okay, Rich. We like listening to you. I've got a question for you. If I send it in the chat, you'll see it.
Okay.
So it's Super Leads has asked a question. Could you ask him what Diego Garcia is like?
You want me to ask him what it's like?
No, he's asking you. Super Leads is asking you.
I've never been on shore at Diego Garcia. I've seen it. That's about it. We never, John F. Kennedy never pulled in there, probably because there was not facilities to, get us ashore. Although I could be wrong. We just never went there. I can tell you that it's muggy, hot, humid, a lot of thunderstorms in that area. That's all I can tell you about Diego Garcia. Because I was never actually on. We went by it several times. And it's like any other place when you've been out at sea forever. And all of a sudden, let's say Diego Garcia is close. You can see a palm tree. Everybody runs up to the flight deck and looks because you're tired of just looking at nothing but water 24/7. So, any kind of little doofy island that would pop up that we pass nearby, all of a sudden you see people racing to the flight deck to take a look because you actually do get sick and tired of just seeing gray. And that's what it's like out at sea, gray and gray and gray. The ship is gray, and that's to blend in with everything else. It's meant to blend in, so your enemy supposedly can't see you at a distance. But yeah, Diego Garcia, I don't know what it's like personally because I was never stationed there and never went ashore there.
Super Lee says thanks. Rich, did you ever go anywhere where you didn't know where you were going, or was it always that you could plot it out on a map? Like, was there times when you think we're not where we're supposed to be?
For 99% of the people on the ship, that was always the case. They had no clue where we were. For certain people had, let's say 90%, not 99. Anybody that was flying an aircraft, they obviously needed to know where we were going, short term at least. In the weather office, we didn't necessarily have to know where we were going unless they wanted an accurate forecast. So we always pretty much knew where we were going. People in the navigation, obviously, they knew where we had been and may know where they were going, at least a certain period out. But I can tell you, my brother was on the ship with me for about a year. He worked below decks. He was what's called a fireman, and he was constantly saying, "Where are we?" Whatever, and I couldn't tell him. We would, he would know we were in the Indian Ocean, but he wouldn't know how close we were to Australia or to Diego Garcia or to Africa, whatever. He just would not know. And I wasn't allowed to say, I wasn't allowed to write home saying where we were, anything like that. So I was one of the privileged few that always knew where we had just been because we were always plotting it. And almost always we knew where we were going, even 2 or 3 days out, because the captain and other people on board the ship needed to know what kind of weather we might run into. And the air officer, air ops, they needed, like I said, anything connected with actual flying, they would know where we were. But the people that launched the aircraft off the flight deck, and the people that worked on the radars on a helicopter, for example, they had no clue where we were. Absolutely none. Now, I guess if you were good with sextants and things like that, you could find out where we were, but nobody was doing that sort of thing. So, but no, to answer your question, we were never in a surprise location. Other than to say, like, let's say we were heading to the UK and all of a sudden we're heading south towards Africa or whatever for a short period of time. Now, actually, let me give you an exact example of this. There was a time when we were in the Mediterranean when we were supposed to be heading for Italy, and we were not. And I had no clue why. It wasn't long before I knew, but that's when we had issues with the embassy in Lebanon. There was a bombing in the Marine embassy in 1982, I want to say. And all of a sudden we were diverted without that being announced to us. So that was a short period of time. However, in the weather office, we knew we were going to be heading due east because the captain wanted to know what kind of weather we were going to run into heading east. And we didn't know the reason, but we knew we were heading east. And eventually we were told that, the embassy was bombed there and we had to go. That was an exciting 6 or 7 months where we just sat off the coast of Lebanon. We were a couple hundred miles off the coast. Or closer, we would go back and forth. But the USS New Jersey was actually stationed, within visual range of Lebanon. And that was interesting because the USS New Jersey, gets into stuff that was never reported back here. They would bomb the coast of Lebanon with their turrets, their whatever they used. And they actually would turn their ship around. The force of those explosions coming out of their cannons, so to speak, would turn the ship, and then they'd fire the opposite side and turn them back the other way. That we could see that, especially at night. It looked like lightning in the east, but it was the USS New Jersey firing. And we also had, and this is another proof now of flat Earth. We also had where we were going to bomb some target over there in Lebanon, never reported here. I do remember writing my mother about that, saying, what'd you think about, the bombing in the news? And she never replied until I got home. She said, what were you talking about? And it was never reported here. And she was one that kept up on the news. But there was a situation where at that time we had visual guided bombs and instrument let me put it that way. Let me rephrase it. We had bombs that they could drop where the pilot had to have visual contact with the ground to drop the bomb. That's the kind they wanted to drop back then. This was in the very early stages of smart bomb technology. They either didn't have a lot of those or didn't want to use them for whatever reason. But we got to a point where they were going to have this bombing run over Lebanon, and we had a ceiling, and that means 6/10 of the sky at least was covered by clouds. We had a ceiling of what I was calling 2,000 feet. I was the observer this time. And all of a sudden the air operations, the air officer and his assistant, and I can't remember if the captain came that time or not, but all of a sudden a lot of officers were surrounding me in our little weather office. And I was the one that just happened to be doing the observations then. And they kept asking me questions. Are you sure that the clouds are at 2,000 feet? And at first, I didn't know why they were asking me. They were like, can you change your observation to 2,200 feet? I was like, no, I'm not going to change my observation to 2,200 feet. I didn't know why they wanted me to change it first. But then it was explained to me that they have visual-sighted bombs they want to use, but you can't have a ceiling 2,000 feet and below and use them. They have to be, I guess, for safety of the aircraft, to be high enough so they don't get shot down. I don't know what the reason specifically was. That's my assumption. But they wanted to use these visual bombs. And it mattered in advance because they had to either load the visually sighted bombs onto the aircraft or the other type bombs. And they wanted me to raise my observation to 2,200 feet or 2,300 feet. And I wouldn't do it. And that's one thing where that's one of the positions in the Navy where you have more power than the captain. If you're the observer and you say it's 2,000 foot ceiling, nobody can force you to change that observation, because if you change it and then something goes wrong, you can be court-martialed for it. So I was pretty adamant in my 2,000 foot observation that it was no higher than that. And they kept trying to get me to do it. We finally ended up with a compromise. And that is, we had what were called convective clouds. And that means that you can take the temperature of the water and the dew point temperature, and you can keep going up. There's something called the dry adiabatic lapse rate. And you can get to a certain point where you can tell where the clouds will condense. And this works much better over land than over sea. Now, of course, I'm out at sea saying it's 2,000 foot ceiling, and they went higher. So what I did was or what they did was they suggested that the clouds were higher over Lebanon because of the warming of the land. Land warms faster than the water, and this was in late afternoon. I said, well, that's a possibility, but I'm not over land, so I can't tell you what the ground, what it is there. But anyway, we got an observation from Lebanon. We did the calculations, and it showed it should be about 2,300 feet over Lebanon. Should be the base, which means they were allowed to use visual sighted bombs. But that still was based on me being correct with my 2,000, because what they did was they did a little bit of a interpolation between me and the sea surface temperature and the land temperature. So anyway, I stuck to my guns. They loaded visual sighted bombs because of the calculation, and I helped them with the calculation. And I agreed, yes, if my observation is right, it should be at least 2,300 feet over Lebanon, so you should be able to use visual sighted bombs. So I was able to keep my observation the same. The first launch that went up, we got a PIREP, that's a pilot report back. He said that they were 1,950 feet was the ceiling where we were. So I was within 50 feet of being absolutely dead on correct. You would never call 1950 anyway. You would call 19 or 20, but 1950. So I was dead on. They got over Lebanon. It actually was 2,400 feet over Lebanon because it had warmed even a little bit more by the time they got there. So, but here's the deal. If I'm reporting 2,000 feet where I am, then, and I'm at the highest part of the ball always, then by the time you get to Lebanon, it's lower by, I don't know, we were 100, 150 miles off the coast. So, I mean, it would have been almost like fog. That's how low the ceiling was. So it would never worked out. So the whole thing was really based on a flat earth, that there was no difference in my elevation versus theirs, my sea level versus the sea level at the Lebanon coast. So that's something in retrospect, I can go back and look and say, wow, there was a flat earth proof right in front of me. But there was no consideration of a curvature and, okay, they're curved more there than here, so it's a lower sea level, so the height would only be 1,500 feet. Nah, we did it. It worked out perfectly. The pilot reports verified everything within 50 feet. And another proof that it's flat earth. There was no curvature of the earth calculations being taken into account. The clouds don't curve.
Well, if you go and look at all of the specs for all these weapons, anyway, I'm sure you've seen the documents. Targeting, everything is all based on flat earth, stationary plane, flat
Absolutely.
earth.
Before we answer, Rich, Flat Earth Duke, can you just tell Rich what the water doesn't do? There's no bendy water.
I love it.
And so, yeah, all the tech specs for all those weapons, all of them is flat earth. When they're building them and designing them, they never consider, oh, we have to go every 100 miles. We got 7,000 feet of curve, people. Well, we got to calculate that in there. Nope.
Do you know the one thing that's amazed me is, and I did watch it via Mark Sargent this a few years ago, was that military guy, the one on the missiles. And he said everything, and it didn't catch on as well as I thought, because it's a bit like, now what's next? So there's a guy saying that missiles don't have any curvature of the earth taken into consideration. They fly across a flat plane, and how do you think we fly our planes? Our military planes, and all this. And it's like, well, we had someone that said it. So what happened to him then?
He's probably busted two grades in rank. It was a military guy?
Yeah, he explained that missiles didn't have any curvature of the earth taken into consideration, that when they fired, they just went straight to the target.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's every single weapon mankind has developed. None of them account for curvature of the earth or rotation.
And he said...
From the Trebuchet to the Titan missile. No
said
curve.
That they basically had the system on the tanks on the land, and all they did was put it on the ships. So they didn't take any other, anything into consideration from the tank to the ships.
Well, Can I say something in regards to weapons? They've done tests where they fired a cannon up into the sky, and if it's not come back down, where's your Coriolis effect? Where's your spin?
There is none.
That happened.
There is no spin.
I mean, you can even do it yourselves if you want. And
the only spin you're gonna find is on the TV, on the news, spinning the news.
Yeah, and that is
so Rich.
CGI,
Yeah,
because
it must drive
been
you.
Filmed. Sorry, dude. They've never ever filmed the spin of the Earth. Never filmed it. The spin of the Earth. It's never been seen and filmed. It's all CGI.
That's right. Rich, it must drive you nuts, man. Thinking back, all these things you did on the ship, and it's like, damn. Oh yeah. Now it must have just all clicked one day and went, damn. That is amazing. It is flat. Because when you spend that much time at sea, man, it's so flat. Everything's flat.
Yeah, there's
months, right?
Yeah, I do remember looking from the tower all around, seeing nothing but ocean on any side, and thinking, wow, I guess I'm not high enough to see the curve.
Right.
But radar in particular, we had radar every single day. We used it, and the outer ring was 60 miles. And beyond that, you could almost see to 80 miles as far as if a blip happened on there. Yeah, the ships would long disappear visually, but they'd still be on radar beyond the 60-mile ring. And yeah, it just never dawned on you. It's like, well, if it visually went over because of the curve of the Earth, why is radar still picking it up? It just doesn't dawn on you.
Because radar bends around the curve.
Well, that's sort of what they're saying. I mean, you can look it up. They'll say radar, for whatever reason, will work at a longer distance over the water.
Well, here's the problem: the return trajectory off the ping, it would be shooting off into the sky somewhere. You wouldn't even see it. You wouldn't pick it up. Exactly.
It's like all the Doppler radar videos I did. It's line of sight microwave radiation, and once you send out a little bit of radiation, it doesn't know to curve over. You know, it's the same receiving station that sends it out. So if it's going over a 2-mile curve, which is one of the examples I showed, it doesn't know to curve back 2 miles.
Right.
To the receiving station. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
it is when you break it down, you really look at it.
Actually, it's when you think about it, when you actually think about it, that's when it kind of hits you, doesn't it? All the time, but as a flat earther, it's all the time.
And you know, I wish I was a millionaire, because I'd offer a $10,000 reward or even a $100,000 reward for anybody who can show any satellite. Because here's the cognitive dissonance: satellites report precipitation. So my thing is, all right, show me one satellite report. To date, nobody. You know, they always say, well, of course they report precipitation. They've been doing it for years. Well, show me one that does it. None of them do it. It's impossible. If you even understand what it's reporting, a satellite can't even do that.
Well, if we have a geosync satellite or geostationary, excuse me, and it like DirecTV's got like, I don't know how many satellites, a dozen or something up there. I don't know. We should be able to take a telescope, man, and zoom in on it at some point, because it's not moving.
You know what gets me too about that is people will say, look, there's a light going across in the sky. That's the satellite. Don't even show up on these apps saying that there's. My thing is, why does it have a light on it?
Right.
And how bright does that light have to be to reach you from 100 and some miles when it's no bigger than a 747?
Right. It's a pretty big light.
Don't you think it's really crazy that your whole senses, you know that you're on a flat plane, everything, and yet they convinced us we were on a ball spinning? How do you do that? Like, for goodness sake. And you think about it, it's just, oh my goodness, it's just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, every day I wake up just shaking my head going, how did this happen, man? How did I get fooled? And we did. We got fooled, and we just forgot to use our senses in our science, man, our real science. Not this.
That's why I tell you that those people that sit in those observatories need to go to prison.
Yeah, well.
Those great telescopes they got, and they still want to pretend that they're light years away. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know.
It's just
People don't
like,
want to think, though.
it's insane.
I might have a debate. I might need you, Rich. I got a debate maybe coming up for with a scientist from Caltech.
Yeah.
Next week, I'm trying to put it together. I got a few people helping me, but he's agreed to it, and it's next Wednesday at 6:00. And he is. Hold on, I forget which. He's like one of these string theory guys at Caltech. Hold on, let me get to my email here. Gmail. Shoot. Anyway, I'll have to email you once I put it together. I'm not sure what platform we're going to do it on, but I need some powerhouse flat earthers, man, on the panel. Hopefully, I'm going to have a room with him in it, a few flat earthers with him, and then I'll have my computer and a projection. I got a projector so he can see everybody on the panel as well.
Is this coming Wednesday? Next Wednesday?
Yeah, a week from today.
At what time?
6 p.m. Pacific.
Okay. Now, is it going to be like this? It's going to be like a
like a
Google
hangout. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's get in touch.
Okay.
I would say in advance, don't let them get away with stuff they can't prove. Like they'll say that according to the radius of the Earth. Well, prove the radius of the Earth.
Give me the R, man.
Yeah, exactly.
In R we trust.
That's right. How did you arrive at R?
That's the first question. Boom. How did we get there? Well, let's see what he says. What the heck? I don't know. I'm driving, trying to email here. All right, send.
Karen, you can send him my email address.
Of course. Anyway, we could talk a little bit about what we were here for.
He's a quantum physicist.
Oh, geez. So it's all theoretical.
It's all theoretical, right?
Yeah.
Have you show me a picture of that quantum? Can you give me a picture of that? No. That's like string theory and all this crazy stuff, right?
Yeah. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but as long as they, keep it in the theoretical.
Right. I'm good with that. Spiros Mikakalakis, I can't pronounce his last name. But I'll send you information. You can. He's Greek. He works at Caltech. He thinks flat earthers are crazy, and he wants to straighten us out. And we ran into him last Saturday night in Hollywood, and he's willing to debate some flat earthers. So I was like, wow. So,
how did you get in contact with him?
We met him at the movie premiere for Behind the Curve. It's
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. It's with Mark Sargent, Patricia Stairs, a few other people are in it. Jaronism. Surprised you weren't in it, actually. But anyway, it's 2017. There's all the footage, And but they put together a documentary kind of thing. It's kind of a hit piece. No, I haven't met a flat earther that's seen it that likes it. But anyway, it should be hitting Netflix at some point. I heard.
It's called Behind the Curve?
Behind the Curve, yeah. And we were just out front.
The chat room's been telling me that all the likes have gone off this hangout. There's zero.
I don't know how they do that, man. Some good hackers out there, man. Sock accounts. I don't know how they do that.
So you're saying you had likes and they disappeared?
Yeah, someone, I'm sorry, in the chat room, well, a few people are talking about it now, that all the likes, it's on 0.
They always do, Mitch. They mess around. Thumbs up, thumbs down. How many's in, how many's out? They just mess around.
Yeah, somebody can hack that stuff, I guess. But better than that than jumping in here and messing up our hangout. That's better.
Yeah, at least we managed to have a hangout with some good information of obviously dead zones. And that's why we've come here today, isn't it? Because hopefully tomorrow something else is happening.
So go ahead, Rich.
I was just going to say, Karen, are you going to come live or do another hangout or something as soon as you get confirmation or information?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dude, like this thing's like wide open, man. He could call at 3 in the morning, man. We're rocking. Let's do it. You know, this is huge. I mean,
obviously, if he's going to get the Facebook page up, hasn't he? And then, you know, I should just email him. I should just keep emailing him.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to text him. How's it going? Getting close? Okay. Are we there yet? No, it should be interesting, man. The guy seems legit.
Yeah, and you might hear it almost first on Sun and Moon.
Yeah, right? I don't know how you found it.
I didn't hear about it anywhere else. That's for sure.
No, that was it. And
I think what it is that, like, you know, everybody knows I'm putting little videos about who's coming on, and then of course then we have our panels and our hangouts, and then, you know, I'm quite talking to loads of people on my phone and things like that. And I know that Rich also likes looking for people or new ideas or whatever it is himself, but I also do the same. Came across Des, and it was like, oh, where did he come from? Like, wow. And yeah, I know that loads of people are skeptical, and unfortunately, with what they've, well, it's horrible to keep saying with what they've done, because we're responsible for ourselves. But from where we've come, we're all going to be quite skeptical. But I know that everyone on this panel is giving Des a thumbs up right now and hoping that something new happens, new information.
Absolutely, somebody willing to just even go out and to the ice wall, whatever, would be amazing. But to talk to the guy before he leaves and kind of get an idea. The whole idea is to go to the edge, whatever that is. So, and do it in 3 days. That's pretty impressive. 3, 4, 5 days even would be impressive. A lot of people, set out to the edge for years. Go ahead.
Can I just say something? Yeah, there's a question here from the chat. It's saying for the panel, are there any other subjects they feel are just as important or more so than flat Earth or where we live? What do you think?
I think flat Earth is sort of a gateway drug.
No question.
The thing is, though, when we hit this, right, you could have watched the video and gone, oh, we're flat. But then for a lot of us, it just didn't stop there. And the information and the things we're looking at, it's like turning almost into a scientist. Did you expect that, it's so important because we've been so lied to, and we're just basically being controlled all the time and lied to. I mean, I don't know if, fortunately, we're probably we're the anarchists now, aren't we? What they would call us that. We're telling the truth. We don't know all the answers, do we? We all know there's something very wrong, and we're not spinning. I think
flat Earth is part of the overall. All things will be revealed in the end. I think the most important thing is going to be the hidden medical technologies and energy technologies. Of course, medical for the obvious reasons. The U.S. government in particular has so many patents that they have deemed classified and whatever. These things would be like cures for cancer, Alzheimer's, all kind of different things that it's just absolutely beyond cruel not letting these truths come out. That's one thing, and some of us who have looked into some of these things have found a lot of answers, but the FDA hasn't looked at it, so a lot of people are scared off to look at anything alternative. But the energy thing in particular too would eradicate a lot of poverty around the world. And I don't think the powers that be want that, because the powers that be want control, and the more impoverished the population is, the more they're under the thumb of the rulers in charge. So I think those two things will be revealed, and I think a lot of the impetus will come from flat Earth, believe it or not, because it's one of the outer onion things that once you peel that away and say, oh, they've lied to us about that. What else have they lied to us about? Maybe we don't need to always trust doctors with what they say. Something just came out. I saw that I think it was 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 doctors, oncology doctors, cancer doctors, would not take the chemo radiation therapies that they give to their own patients.
That they prescribe. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, what kind of crap is that? I mean, that's crap.
Yeah, that's horrible. It's inhumane, man. Man, I just went through that with my best man. He took the treatment and it killed him. So
exactly.
It's horrible.
So I think there's an underlying good in flat Earth that people don't even see.
It's amazing good.
It is a bit crazy though, isn't it? That everything is back to front. Everything's almost. It's like there is part of what they're saying is the truth, but then they go and lie about it. Do you know what I mean? Like they show you a map saying it's flat, and then they're telling everybody they're living on the ball.
Yeah.
And we didn't put it together. Well, it's always being shown flat.
Maps are flat.
Hey, Karen, do you think you could find that video or the source? It was a hangout where we were all doing, and I think it was Series that had, or somebody that had the link to the Library of Congress, and it had that article that was written in the late 1890s or early 1900s, where the person in the UK was being fired for teaching that the Earth was a ball.
That was from 1904, I do believe.
Video. Anyway, Rich, it's all on a little video on the moon, so I can pass that to you. And it's also got where basically, okay, we're the internet, but they're called like documents, and they're on the internet, so they're not like web pages now. But you've got all these NASA documents which say flat plane, and then they turn it into a ball. So that's all on there as well. I'll send you the link.
Okay, awesome.
Sweet.
Because I think part of the thing we need to expose is the history lie too.
Oh man. Yeah.
I know. If you start through Martin Leakey, you get mind blown again. I mean, like he was showing stuff that basically in 1712 they were able to draw stuff which looked almost like a CT scan, and they mapped out the nervous system, the whole thing. 1712.
Wow.
It's like so lied to us about where these people were. It's just like I have this feeling like there was a big flood, and then they were digging us out. They weren't building; they were digging us out because the buildings were already there. And then like we've been recovering from that mud, from this, from that.
Yeah, I got a building here in Santa Ana courthouse, man. Very suspicious. Not a single picture of it being built.
Really?
Not a single picture. And it was built like 1900. And I'm like, I searched for like 4 hours trying to find a picture of the construction of this thing. I mean, they would have had plenty of time to take pictures, and I don't know. This is very odd. Yeah, and there was like towers on it that are gone. Some weird stuff on there.
Well, I think it's like Astral says. We're back in a dark age again.
Yeah.
They're pretending in a sense, we've got computers and we don't know what they really had, and maybe they didn't have things quite like this, but yeah, just like Oh, I don't know. Anyway, you get your mind blown if you watch Martin Leakey.
Yeah, I'm about. I don't know. I'm probably. I got to sit down and do a Martin Leakey binge watching. I got to get caught up, man. I've been busy on other things, but yeah, he's got some amazing information. He's bringing out.
Just how, you know, listen, and hundreds of years ago, they still had these great big buildings with pillars on them all over the place.
Right.
And don't forget the ceramic little rings that are all on everything for energy.
Yeah, that's.
We don't even know about stuff, do we? And look at what they are. They're amazing. And they're really old, or older than, you know, what's all that about?
So one thing Dad said last week when we talked to him was he expects, you asked him about, I think, the gates. Something about gates.
Yeah, what I did was,
he said, yeah, he expects to see some kind of gates. Yeah.
Enoch is playing a part in this with the gates. You know, it is a bit like that. But I kind of feel like that myself, because the moon can suddenly just appear outside my window, and then I've actually seen it appearing, like as if someone's opening a curtain, and then the whole thing comes into play. It's like, what? You know, like there's only a bit of it, and then suddenly it's as if, you know, like you've got a reflection in something, and then the rest of it's there. And then me and my daughter, we went to the garage one night, and the moon wasn't there, and when we came back, it was. It was there in the sky. So it's like gate one side of it, and I wasn't sure about all that. And anyway, he said, yeah, it's going to be a bit like Enoch.
Fascinating stuff, man. I'll tell you what, man. If you're a globehead or a flat earther, you have to be fascinated with this what we're doing, what everybody's looking at. You know, it's just absolutely astonishing. And there has not. I haven't been bored one day since I found flat earth.
It's a little bit like everybody's watching the television, but for some reason we've been able to see behind the television, you know, behind the screen. And in a sense, the picture of Enoch, you know, the one that everybody shows, is a bit like that, isn't it? Behind the veil. So it's a bit like that, isn't it? That's what's happened to us.
The first color film was The Wizard of Oz. Don't pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
That's right.
And then there was that song in there, If I Only Had a Brain.
That's right.
So there's a lot of truth in that movie.
I agree.
Yeah, a heart.
Need a heart.
I think that's just one of the saddest things about all this, is that it just seems, and you know, people are saying, maybe I've heard it on other hangouts, that everything's changed so much in the last 20, 30 years, where even if everybody didn't realise the reason they've got their comradeship is over a bunch of lies, they've told you this, but this has happened, the wars, but there was comradeship, people helped each other, and that's the bit that no one cares anymore. That's the saddest bit.
Yeah.
For me, that no one cares. Not maybe us, but out there, they just don't care.
Well, they got people so tied up, going to work, driving, commuting, you know, having to go to the grocery store, cooking, and the family's all split up, and the kids moved out, and you know, back in the day, man, everybody stayed in the house. They all stayed pretty close by. You had grandma in the house to watch kids. You know, I think that was a better way of going.
Do you know what? It's really ironic. In the chat room, someone's just come in under the name Reclaim the Plane.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's a good name. I like that.
I'm talking to his parents were like with the Second World War, and she was telling me that she was basically taking, you know, like plonked on another family in the country. But she just said, well, what it was is when that happened, so their plan worked really well, because the women decided, well, I've got to work and I've got to look after the children. And she was saying a lot of the men used to go and drink. They'd get their money and they'd go and drink. And it was so the women have decided they've had enough. That's what she said to me, and she's 18.
Yeah, that was it the suffragette movement or something? I can't remember.
Yeah, again, it's just like it was all part. Did you ever realise it was all part of a game? They don't realise it's all part of a game. That's the bit that's so horrible.
Yeah,
I mean, we're quite alone, aren't we? Because where can we go? Will I write to Mr. Trump?
We can go to the edge. Let's go. Yeah, it's crazy, but yeah, you got to keep a sense of humor occasionally. You got to stress or relief there for sure. But
it is a very deep subject, though, isn't it? Flat Earth, really. It's not like it's not a joke, is it? But you've got to have a sense of humor.
Yeah, it's a very serious subject, and I'm so proud of everybody that's taken it so seriously and delved in and spent their own money and time and experiments and research. It's just fascinating to see all of this effort, man. We're all shooting for that goal, man, to try to wake people up. And maybe Des will bring back some really good evidence, and we'll all kind of relax a little bit. But you know, if he doesn't, then we will keep moving forward, no doubt, and we'll figure it out.
We have to watch this space with what happens then. So hopefully he gets his Facebook page out. He goes, and then in a few days' time, hopefully, Sun and Moon will have something to report.
Shout out to the chat. Who you got? You got some people in the chat there.
Tommy, Ada, there's Astral, Nimblehorse, Earth is seriously flat, Richard. But
ban that Astral guy, man. He's trouble.
No one's flower. Playing culture. Tommy, Floyd, C Oddity. Vinny TV's just come in.
Hi, Vinny. Long time, man. How have you been?
Hey, man.
Khalid, we've been going for an hour and a half. Do you want to talk any more? Do you say anything else, Rich, or do you want to just talk 10 minutes or whatever it is about what we've come, about obviously speaking to Des? Because it's tomorrow he goes.
I'm hoping I can get back tomorrow if there's any information.
Oh, tomorrow. Well, first day out, I imagine probably not going to hear much, but hopefully by the weekend, man, we'll hear something.
Cool. So what did you say, Rich?
I just hope I can come back whenever the first reports come back.
Just,
definitely looking forward to it.
Like you said, man.
Breaking up a bit, Flat Earth dude. I really hate that when that does that.
Yeah. And that's a good idea. Praying for man. That's a good idea.
We can't really hear you, Flat Earth dude.
Up with, yeah.
You can't hear me.
That's really bad.
Yeah, it is. Flat Earth dude, we can't hear you.
I'll mute.
I wonder why those satellites all of a sudden fail.
He's probably, sometimes when you drive through those sub things on your phone, he's probably out driving. Some of them aren't as good as others, and it might be that's what's affecting it. It's actually his little mini cell tower thingy, Bob. They're those mini ones in between the big ones. Sometimes they don't work properly, or you switch over to one from the other, and that's why it all goes funny. That's what I think, anyway. If that makes sense. Yeah, so.
Well, you should be able to hear me now because I'm on the Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah, much better.
What did you say?
So I'm on the Wi-Fi now.
Yeah, you said something. We didn't hear any of it.
I know. Probably robot, huh?
Yeah, you did a bit.
I was saying, it was good that we prayed, for Dez's trip, and that we could put some good vibes out for that, man. He's that's a heck of an adventure, man. My goodness. Like you said, Rich, we would have known about it a year ago. Maybe we would be going. But
yeah, exactly. I wish I could go.
It would have been nice to have someone from our Flat Earth community going that we knew, and but we'll just have to trust them for now, and we only we'll know in 5 days.
Yeah, maybe we'll get information where we could duplicate his trip. Who knows?
Yeah, there you go. That's a good point. Yeah, we could get all the specs, man. But yeah, he said he'll come and talk about it for days afterwards. So that would be great.
Well, I'm sure we'll mention it when you come back on Friday, Rich.
Yep.
Just to say Rich is back on Friday because he's talking to Chris UK. So that's going to be another great hangout. We might know something by then. You never know.
Yeah, I would think by Friday we should. If he says it's only going to be like a 3 or 4 day trip, we should definitely, unless his whatever he's going to do live doesn't work.
Yeah, I suddenly thought about it. I was thinking, what? You're going right up to the edge? But I suddenly thought about it. You know, they're probably not going right up to the edge. They're just hopefully going to be able to film it. It doesn't mean they have to be right at the edge.
Yeah, I just got this idea. It's going to be a big surprise. He just keeps putting little, it's what he doesn't say that's speaking volumes.
Mm. He's quite cool. He's quite cool as well. Because on the Hangouts, I don't know if the chat room feel it, but we can feel people, and he's quite cool, isn't he? I just don't think he's messing about.
Yeah, and I think I told you, Karen, offline. I had a good feeling from the first time I talked to him that he was legit and he's doing exactly what he says he's going to be doing. So I don't think we have any worries there. And we've had to have those worries before, haven't we?
Well, when people say that they're going to do things and then they don't.
Or say they're one thing when they're not.
Do you think it's a good time to end the hangout then? Because we've been going like an hour and 3/4 now, and I think we've covered everything. And one thing, Rich, was there when you were sailing, was there any place you got to much quicker without we got there much quicker than I thought we were?
I don't remember that. Like I said, I do remember taking forever whenever we were below the equator. It seemed like it took longer than it should have. And that's just an observation, a perception. So it's nothing I can prove. If I was into this back then, I definitely would have been doing measurements and time and tracking all kinds of different things. In fact, I wish I could get my hands on some of the old charts that we had so I could actually go over it and see, why did it take so long to get from Africa to Australia or from the middle of the Indian Ocean like Diego Garcia. It's not exactly the middle, but that was sort of the midway point. Why did it take forever? Or why did it take forever to get from one part of South America to another once you got below the equator? But faster than I thought, no. Everything seemed longer because you always wanted to get out of being out at sea. And so even the short trips seemed like they took forever.
So how far north did you sail?
North. Not that far north, more south than north. The farthest north was probably off the coast of the UK, actually. Maybe midway up that latitude. Or when we think, we may have sailed as far north as Halifax, Canada. Yeah, north wasn't the big deal. It was always south for us. Further south was Perth, Australia. And furthest north, let's say the UK, somewhere there in the middle part of the UK. But we a lot of the times we were in the Mediterranean. So, that's not really north or south. It's just sort of in the middle of the latitudes. But we did go to Africa. We went to Kenya. We went to Brazil. Now, the cruise, after I got off the ship, they did actually go, I think, around the tip of South America. I'll have to check my buddy with that to make sure. But either that or Cape Horn. I can't remember. But they did go much further south than when I was on board. And of course, I wanted to go very south. I was offered to go to Antarctica for 6 months, but because they couldn't guarantee my duty station after that, I declined it. I actually should have done it, but your life would have been totally different. It's just, I wouldn't have had my kids and different things like that. So I'm glad I made the decision I did and got out.
Yeah, because you wouldn't be here now, would you?
No, I probably wouldn't even be alive. Seriously. I mean, it's so much stress. And the way I took, care of stress back then was smoking cigarettes and things like that. So I probably would not be alive today.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I was never a big drinker, a lot of people in the Navy are, big drinkers. I was never into that or drugs or anything. So, but cigarettes would have probably done me in, and the stress from it. It was a lot of stress. You worked minimum 12 hours a day when you're out at sea, 7 days a week. And then you usually had a 2 to 4 hour watch after that. So you were up 16 hours. It was just a nightmare. And then you'd have to be up for fire drills and for general quarter drills and all kind of BS. So it was a rough life.
Well, we're glad you're here, Rich.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Especially on Sun and Moon Group. So much comes out on this group. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. And you come and come to our hangouts, which is amazing too. And have become Sun and Moon's friend, so that's even better.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rich, because Rich is one of the only people that actually promotes us. It's really great. It's really nice of you.
Oh, my pleasure. It's worth promoting. Someone just said in the chat he thought, or she thought, all American ships were dry. They are dry, but there is an exception when you're in the Indian Ocean and you go 60 days without a port. They will give you 2 beers on the aircraft carrier. I don't know what they do with the other ships. I can just report what they did on our ship. So it's hardly worth being 60 days out at sea. But we ended up being, I want to say 93 days or something like that. 93 days. Think about that, to go from Africa to Australia. And again, I know we weren't trying to get from one to the other in any kind of record time. And we would fly different directions. You have to turn into the wind for aircraft to take off and land. But 93 days, come on.
There's Astral. He dropped off. He's come back. Yeah, I wish that maybe now you could remember some of those maps, because I'm sure everything might look a bit different. I have this really weird thing. I just don't know where it goes, because I'm just, when I think of people telling us how big the Big Dipper was in like Arizona, up their skyline, blah, blah, blah. For me, this thing goes around my house, and then I get to Denmark and the thing's over there. It's right over there. It doesn't go around my friend's house. It's not on a smaller trajectory around it's actually over there, going around thing a bit more, probably like Astral shows, like the swastika thing. It probably looks more like that because it's over there, but it doesn't do that for me. And I'm thinking maybe they're lying about how north England is, how the north this is here. There's something just doesn't add up.
Yeah, well, one of the things when I travel to Europe next year that I plan on doing is taking a lot of sky observations to see how it's different than here.
Cool. Anyway, shall we finish now, guys?
Yeah, I think we've said pretty much everything we need to say. Looking forward to coming back again. I'll be back Friday, if not before, if we get some news from Des.
Yeah, and watch this space hopefully on Des and his expedition. Thank you, everybody in the chat room. I know some people have just come in. Des didn't actually stay that long, but at least he came on. He's going tomorrow, so it's great that he at least came on and everybody could see what he looked like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, thank you, everybody in the chat room. Thank you, Astral, Patricia, Flat Earth Dude, Des, and Rich. Thank you, Rich. And we wish Des well and his team. So good night from us.
Good night.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Karen, thank you, Patricia.
Astral.
And yeah, we wish Des good luck.
Patricia.
Rich, everybody. Thank you.
Good luck out there, Des.
Godspeed, Des.
Okay. For now.